Hi, I'm Darren from Fish Tech Global, and today in this video we'd like to talk about organics. What are organics and what do they do? How do they affect the aquarium? Let's have a look into the world of organics. What exactly are organics? Organics are small, tiny particles, not to be confused with inorganics like ammonia, nitrite and nitrate. Organics accumulate in the aquarium from metabolized waste, from fish mucus, from aquatic plants and from excess fish food. All the detritus that accumulates in your aquarium will cause organics. They build up and they will make the aquarium look a little bit tannin-like, as if you've got driftwood leaching tannins. So organics, what exactly does an aquarium with and without organic build-up look like? Let's take a look. Now here we have an aquarium that you can see the water is not clear. It's got a tinted look about it, just the same as if you had driftwood leaching tannins. Well, that's organics, and even driftwood tannins are a form of organics. But here we have a reasonably heavy stock load in this aquarium. It's full of goldfish, which goldfish are great at creating organics in the water. They shed a lot of slime coat, tend to eat a lot of food and create a lot of waste. And the water hasn't had a change for a fairly long while, and we can see that the water's discoloured now. The microscopic organics can actually, support protozoans and harmful parasites to the fish. The fish mucus slime coat, which they shed all the time, prevents harmful organisms from actually attaching themselves to the fish. But in the interim, these small protozoans can survive on the organics in the water column. And bearing in mind too that organics also suck the oxygen out of the water, creating a lower oxygen environment, which can actually stress the fish, and then you can have these random disease outbreaks because the disease has been surviving on the organics present in the water column. Once the protozoans can get onto the fish, and the fish are protected by their mucus coating. The mucus coating can then be corrupted by the stress created by organics, and then we have this disease outbreak which seems to come out of nowhere. Even in a heavily planted aquatic plant aquarium is also subject to organics. Aquatic plants do not utilize organics. Aquatic plants utilize ions in the water as a source of food. Aquatic plants will actually contribute to the organics in the water as they release photosynthates during the photosynthesis process. The organics can then build up and may harm the aquatic plants as they inhibit the amount of light the aquatic plants can utilize for the photosynthesis process. The benefit of a large water change can never be understated. The aquarium will always look clearer, the fish are healthier. Every place where organics is produced usually comes from an area of high detritus. Your filters, underneath your rocks, within your gravel, all the detritus needs to be removed. It breaks down, and for want of a better word, expels these organics into the water column. They then support life in the form of bacteria, which then can attract protozoans, such as tetrahymena, which lives on the bacteria. The tetrahymena will then look for an opportunity to attack your fish if the fish are in a stress situation. So that's where we get these random outbreaks of disease. It's just the long term of accumulation of organics and the water changes being insufficient to cope. So every couple of weeks or a month, depending on the species of fish, do a large water change. And that will just keep all that under control, and your aquarium will look brand new. It'll absolutely shine. The best way to remove organics is through vacuuming the gravel, making sure that the gravel is absolutely clean. So we move the gravel cleaner around, and we even lift up the ornaments out of the way and vacuum where the ornaments were. We can find a lot of detritus under the ornaments. So once you vac all the gravel as part of your water change, we'll drain probably about 80% of the water out, 70% to 80% of the water, depending on how long it is since you've done a major water change, how big the stock load is on the aquarium, but a large water change up to 80%, taking the aquarium right down, won't cause any harm, won't cause any problem. And if the top up water is within reason, the reasonable range of the aquarium's water, there won't be any harm to the fish. So as we can see, after we've done the major water change on the aquarium, we've lowered the organics level to a point where the aquarium is much, much clearer. This will work on any aquarium, whether it be saltwater or freshwater. Okay, we've had a look at organics in the aquarium. Now, I bet you want to see what organics actually looks like. You know, it's very, very difficult for us to do that under the microscope, as we need about 1600 times magnification, and it's usually done through an oil immersion objective. So what we've done, we have a little sample of the water that we have on our bench, and we're going to show you what organics will look like when we add a flocculant to it. And you'll be able to see the organics when they're all bound together quite clearly, far more clear than we will under the microscope in the lab. So here we have a sample of water from the aquarium that's the high level of organics. What we're going to do is, using a flocculant, we've allowed this to settle for 24 hours so you can actually see what the fish have to swim through. So what we do is we just take a little bit of water and we stir it up, and you can see how turbid that is. With the aeration in the aquarium, that's suspended in the water column. Tiny little fine microscopic particles, each supporting life, some good, some bad. If we remove it from the water, then we'll have a lot more oxygen in the water, and the fish are much, much healthier. Now, why are organics really so bad? Well, certain fish are very, very sensitive to organics, and it's usually the fish people have the most problems with. Exotic goldfish, very, very sensitive to organics. They create a lot of problems for them with waterborne pathogens. Dwarf gouramis are very, very sensitive to organics. You've got other species of fish where the organics can accumulate, build up. Your saltwater fish are very sensitive, as well as your corals in your marine aquariums. But the list of fish that are very sensitive to organics, that's your ghost fish and your elephant nose, the ones that people have that little bit of trouble with, I find are very sensitive to organics. The only way we can remove them from the water is through water changes or use of carbon. But carbon will saturate so quickly. You're going to be replacing that carbon so often, it then becomes a financial burden. Logistically, it's not practical. Water changes are far more efficient. Carbon saturation point is quite low. Even on the highest quality carbons, you're going to pay a lot more money. You can run carbon with those fish and you will see benefits in between your water changes, that's for sure. But organics can be quite harmful and best to remove them from the water. But what about fish ponds? Why are fish ponds so different? Fish thrive out there and there's organics building up quite dramatically in a fish pond. Well, let's take a look. Fish ponds are predisposed to organics, the same as an aquarium, but natural sunlight neutralizes the organics. Sunlight is one of the best sterilizers that we have. It will neutralize the bacteria and therefore the organics do not consume the oxygen that they would in an aquarium. We have a much lower stock load normally in fish ponds to what we do in aquariums as well, and ponds are usually a very, very large volume of water compared to the biological load. So organics does not represent as big a problem in a pond and as it does in your home aquarium. So that's our video on organics, explaining how they build up, where they come from, the problems they cause and how to remove them. Now we all understand organics a little bit better. For the future, fish keeping will be a lot more enjoyable. Your aquarium's going to look fantastic like the day it was set up and you're going to have a lot more fun.